It's the weekend before Easter 2025, and I'm in Thomaston, Connecticut to film a newly restored diesel locomotive on the Railroad Museum of New England's line. The museum operates excursion trains on the Naguatuck Railroad between Waterbury and Torrington, with most trains departing from here, the Thomaston Station in downtown Thomaston, Connecticut. For the last several years, power on these trains has been a GP9 locomotive, which, while it is a rare engine for a freight railroad, is not very uncommon in the tourist industry. However, earlier in the week the museum had announced that they'd completed repairs on New Haven 2019, a rare FL9 engine in the museum's collection. RMNE's unit, number 2019, has been out of service for several years because of maintenance issues, and this week marked the second week of service for the unit since its return to operation. Today's train was led north by an SPV cab car, and then the 2019 would lead the train southbound and provide power. Soon, the train's scheduled 2 o'clock departure time drew near, and precisely at 2 the train throttled up and headed north out of the station. Information on this train's operations was nearly impossible to find, so I had to guess where the train would run next. This line has very few grade crossings, with only 3 viable filming locations for the next several miles. From the station in Thomaston, tracks run north over the Thomaston Dam before continuing north to Torrington. I knew that the train ran north before turning around somewhere, and then stopped at a field for an Easter egg hunt before returning back to Thomaston. I guessed that the train must run at least as far as the next grade crossing on the outskirts of Torrington, but after waiting for 40 minutes there was no sign of the train. I assumed that it must now be stopped at a field between here and the dam for the Easter egg hunt, so I headed south to the Thomaston Dam for my next shot. The dam is a huge flood control dam built by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers after a catastrophic flood in the mid-1900s. The tracks run on the slope of the dam, creating the opportunity for a great wide shot of the train. I assumed the train would come any minute, but after 30 minutes there was still no sign of the train. By now, I knew that the train had to be back in Thomaston loading for the next departure, but since it was scheduled to leave in another half hour, I made the decision to stay at the dam and catch it running north. After an hour of waiting in the driving wind on the top of the dam, I was finally rewarded with the sight of the SPV leading the train southbound. For the first time, I could finally get a good look at the FL9 locomotive. These engines are pretty rare since they were only ever used by the New Haven Railroad originally, and only a few of them still survive. They were built between 1956 and 1960 and were the first dual-mode engines ever constructed. A dual-mode engine can operate on either electric or diesel power, meaning these trains could be used in the tunnels of Grand Central Station in New York, where fumes from diesel engines could cause serious air quality issues. The engine is similar in appearance to a normal F unit, but has a 3-axle truck in the rear to support its heavier weight. These units were not originally built with ditch lights, but those and several other minor alterations were added after the surviving units were rebuilt in the 1990s. 2019 and its train disappeared around the bend, heading north. Since I now knew that there was no way to film it north of here, I settled down to wait for the train to return. In about half an hour, 2019 came back, this time leading its train southbound. Unfortunately, a group of people happened to walk by at this time, and our activities seemed to draw a great deal of interest, so their voices did pick up on the mic a good bit.
You have to have a license for this?
Not for this use case.
What kind of locomotive is this?
It's FL9 is what it's called.
Is that like an old? Yeah. You guys into like the train, like the model trains and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I hurriedly deleted some old files on the camera's card, then quickly made my way back to the station in hopes of catching the train there. At this point, my camera's storage filled up and stopped recording, cutting the shot of the train short. Fortunately, though, the drone was still recording fine, leaving us with this shot of the train disappearing through the rock cut, southbound toward the station. I hurriedly deleted some old files and then made my way back to Thomaston to catch the train pulling into the station. A helpful volunteer with the railroad informed me that the train had already been through here, but that it would return from the south where it currently was, visiting the field with the Easter egg hunt in it. This solved that mystery, then. The field was not north of the station like I'd thought, but was south of the station. Suddenly, it was clear why many of my guesses about the train's location had been completely wrong. Soon, the SPV appeared as the FL9 was once again pushing its train north. The train stopped just short of where I was standing, sadly limiting my view of the engine. I hoped to film the train one more time, and when another volunteer said that the train would be running back south to the museum's yard in a little while, I lost no time in driving south to a grade crossing just before the yard limits. It turned out that my rush was completely unnecessary, though, as I had to wait for over an hour before the train finally showed up. After verifying that I was in fact not hallucinating the train headlights after staring at the same stretch of track for so long, I turned on my camera and got what I hoped would be the best shot of the day. The train stopped on the grade crossing so that a switch could be thrown at the yard lead. Then the train moved on into the yard. With the train in the yard, operations on the line had come to a close for the day. It had been a pretty good day of rail fanning, even though I'd made a lot of bad guesses about the train and waited next to the tracks for a very long time. Still, I was happy with the shots I'd been able to get. I've always wanted to visit this railroad for years, and what better excuse to visit than a restored New Haven FL9? Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving me a like to let me know that you enjoyed the video, and maybe even subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, be sure to check out the channel run by my friend Miller Railfan, who joined me on this adventure and was instrumental in helping plan the trip. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.